Hello, everyone. My name is Isabella Bryden. Today I will be presenting to you my final project proposal, specifically about Muslim religion's intersection with education. Just to overview the contents that we'll be going through today, I will demonstrate my cultural autobiography, my proposal, the leaders of diversity, my sources, my takeaways, and my reference page. To start out, we're going to talk about my cultural autobiography. So, what is my positionality and why is this important to me? I am a white heterosexual female, raised Christian, but I am no longer religious. I more identify with spirituality. I just don't like to put any labels on myself in that way. I did grow up in poverty, which was about as diverse as my childhood really got. I am a first generation college student, and as I've grown up, I have been exposed to a lot of diversity topics such as disability and race and financial diversity. However, I have had minimal exposure to religion, which is what brings me to my project proposal of the Muslim religion and its intersectionality with education. When discussing diversity in education, it is important to highlight topics that are beyond one's comfort zone. So, this course has encouraged us to seek that intersectionality in diversity in education, and throughout my journey becoming an educator, I wanted to take it beyond just religion and define the type of religion that I wanted to research so that I could further my understanding. I did choose the Muslim religion due to my lack of knowledge about it and its relevance in current society. As I've gotten older, the people that I've exposed myself to within the workplace and within education, I have interacted with more people who are Muslim. I've gotten to know a few things about Ramadan and hijabs and some of their cultural practices, like not drinking alcohol, arranged marriages, things along those lines. So I just felt like it was important for me to, again, further my understanding and really invest myself in that research, especially in education, because as an educator, it's important that I know how to protect my students from discrimination and understand all backgrounds. The leaders of diversity that I chose to research for this topic were Suad Abdul Kabir, who is an anthropologist and activist. She is an artist and activist that works mostly on Black Muslim identity and the intersectionality of race, culture, and religion. She also wrote Muslim Cool: Race, Religion, and Hip Hop in the United States. She's done a lot of work about the intersection of being Muslim and education through specifically the subject of art. And then I also wanted to do some research on Amani Al-Katabet, who is the founder of MuslimGirl.com. She is an activist and an entrepreneur. She advocates for Muslim women's rights and was the first Muslim woman to run for Congress in New Jersey. Some of the sources that I wanted to highlight were a professor's advice, What You Should Know About Islam, the relative importance of religion and education on university students' views of evolution in the Deep South, and state science standards across the United States, and religion equity in schools, protecting students and their civil rights. So, to start off, we're going to go through a professor's advice, What You Should Know About Islam. This was written and performed through TED Talk by Dr. Nasima Nagaza. In this video, she discusses the discrimination and the deeply rooted prejudice towards Muslims in America post 9/11. She goes into detail about the dynamic of non-Muslim and Muslim students in the classroom and the way that Muslims are depicted in the media, and discusses the polarizing impact of these prejudices. This source was produced by a reputable organization. Most people know TED Talk, specifically TED Talk and their partnership with Akala. She is a professor of high credentials. She is a doctor with a PhD and has firsthand experience with a vast amount of knowledge in Islamic studies and Muslim religion. The authenticity in this source is demonstrated by the experiences she has witnessed as an educator on her own experiences in her culture. This source is relevant to my topic of intersection of the Muslim religion and education through the educational experiences of Muslim students. I will be using this source to help me understand the prejudices that Muslims are experiencing in the media and in their educational experience, and furthering my understanding of the impact of 9/11 in regards to the Muslim discrimination. Specifically here, I do want to pause and just highlight the fact that prior to this research, I had a very divided understanding of American Muslims and Muslims beyond the US, so it didn't really dawn on me that 9/11 would impact people's view of Muslims here in America. So this has been a very eye-opening research project for me in that way. I will also be using this as a form of education and curriculum in my classrooms in the future. If I'm teaching my students about history or cultural differences and diversity in America, I can also use this as a form of supporting evidence for what some students experience due to the discrimination of religion. For our next source, I did research on the relative importance of religion and education on university students' views of evolution in the Deep South and science standards across the US. That is a mouthful. This was written by Leslie Risler, Sarah Duncan, and Nicholas Caruso. It was written discussing certain areas of education and its impact on students' religious experience and the negative stigmas around allowing religious practices and education. The article discusses the importance of religious acceptance in education as a means to prevent discrimination. It specifically discusses the intersection of religion and the topic of evolution due to the rejection of this concept in comparison to what is taught in religious environments. So just to expand on that quickly, in religion, as somebody who was born Christian and raised Christian, similarly to Muslim culture as well, they do not believe in evolution as a whole religion, religious group. They do believe that God is the creator of the earth, and biology kind of conflicts with that, so that's an important distinction in the educational setting. Of course, we still have to teach evolution in higher grade levels, but allowing for flexibility in that manner would be a great place to start in supporting that diversity in education. It is a research article that is structured scientifically using background methods, research results, and analysis. It was peer-reviewed, so that helps with the reliability of the article. It demonstrates accuracy by using research-supported evidence. It is also relevant to my research because it's directly related to the topic of intersection between religion and education. I will be using this to help teach me about stigmas that exist in current educational surroundings in religion, and I will be providing evidence in my research paper for this course. This article will be useful in my future by implementing these concepts into my teaching. The next source that I used was Religion, Equity in Schools, Protecting Students and Their Civil Rights. It was written by Dr. Paula Johnson, who highlights the religious-based bullying of Muslim and Jewish students by their peers, education leaders, and curriculum. She also encourages religious inclusion and anti-bullying efforts. She's a credible author, providing clear and well-structured ideas, and it is relevant to my topic because it discusses the conflicts that arise in educational settings due to diversity of faith and wearing religious symbols, such as a hijab when it comes to Muslims. This source has helped to expand my knowledge of how religious-driven bullying takes place in education, and I will use this information to help me in the development of anti-bullying practices and rules in my future classrooms. The main takeaways from this research has been that prejudice can stem from curriculum, specifically the impact of 9/11 on Muslim students, as well as American education systems being heavily rooted in Christian practices, such as the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God. That has been a point of tension for years now. Another takeaway was discrimination in educational settings, so that there's a lack of education about other cultures and religions. There's not much tolerance for religious clothing, again, such as the hijab, or wearing symbols or accessories that align with one's religion, as well as conflict with prayer times or religious practices such as Ramadan. Muslim religion is a highly demanding religion that requires multiple times for prayer throughout the day. And also during Ramadan, it is a fasting holiday, which can really deplete a student's energy levels, and there is not much toleration for students falling asleep in class due to that event. This is my reference page. Thank you guys so much for listening to my presentation. Have a great rest of your day.